This is Pulse of Africa, the face of Ethiopia, the voice of Africa.
Greetings viewers, you're watching Pulse of Africa. I am Samia Mohammed, bringing you today's latest news. First, here are our top stories. Cameroon to hold regional election on November 30. AU voices concern over US migrant deals with African nations. Morocco's new cinema law takes effect. Now the news in detail. Cameroonian President Paul Biya on Monday signed a presidential decree slating the election of regional councillors for November 30. The election will take place in individual headquarters across the Central African nation. An electoral college made up of regional delegates and traditional leaders, such as village chiefs, will vote to choose 900 regional councillors for a 5-year mandate, 90 for each of the country's 10 regions. According to the country's constitution, the president of the regional council is the representative of the head of state. In 2020, Cameroon held its maiden regional election. Senegal's President Bassirou Diomaye Faye on Monday said Africa could help feed the whole world, arguing that youth must be at the heart of agricultural transformation. Speaking at the opening session of Africa Food Systems Forum in the Senegalese capital of Dakar, Faye said Africa has all it needs to become self-sufficient in food, could help feed the whole world. With 65% of the world's arable land, a creative youth, and immense resources, our continent has the assets to build its food sovereignty, he added. Faye urged Africa to rely on itself to achieve food security and to adopt a solution-led approach, saying it required massive investment in water management, innovation, local processing, and intra-African trade. The African Union's rights body on Monday expressed concerns over deals by Rwanda and Uganda with the US that would allow the transfer of deportees to those countries. The African Commission on Human and People Rights in a statement urged Rwanda, Uganda, and other African states to ensure transparency in such deportation deals, protect the rights of deportees, and avoid policies that risk turning the continent into a drop-off zone for arbitrary expulsions. The ACHPR called the agreement part of the logic of externalization of migration responsibilities and exposed the persons concerned to increased risk of violation of their fundamental rights. The EU body said deportation may violate the principle of non-refoulement, the ban on collective expulsion, and the rights to dignity and asylum under the African Charter on Humans and People's Rights and other international and regional agreements. Morocco's law number 18-23 on the film industry and reorganization of the Moroccan Cinematographic Center has officially come into force. The new law aims to strengthen Morocco's attractiveness for both domestic and foreign investments in the film sector. It focuses on creating new employment opportunities while ensuring public service management principles are respected and promoting competitive rules within the film market. Another key objective is enhancing the prominence of Moroccan cinema nationally and internationally. This approach seeks to establish an advanced and a distinctive economic model specifically tailored to the film industry. In other news, one of Afghanistan's worst earthquakes has killed more than 800 people and injured at least 2,800, authorities say, as they warned that the death toll could rise. Helicopters ferried the wounded to hospital on Monday in the eastern provinces of Kunar and Nangarhar as officials combed the rubble for survivors after magnitude 6 tremor hit just before midnight on Sunday. At least 812 people have died, government spokesman Zubillah Mujahid said at a news conference on Monday as the disaster further stretches the resources of the war-torn nation already grappling with poverty, drops in humanitarian aid, and the pushback of hundreds of thousands of Afghan refugees and migrants by neighboring countries. Ministry of Interior Affairs spokesperson Abdul Matan Ghani told the Reuters news agency that rescue teams had been mobilized to accelerate assistance so that comprehensive and full support can be provided. Britain said on Monday it would suspend applications from registered refugees to bring family members into the country in order to give the government time to toughen the rules, its latest attempt to cut the number of arrivals. Prime Minister Keir Starmer's Labour government is under mounting pressure to reduce the number of asylum seekers reaching Britain from France in small boats after hotels housing migrants became a focal point for weeks of sometimes violent demonstration. Interior Minister Yvette Cooper told Parliament that more and more refugees had applied to bring in family members, placing pressure on housing across the country. Many were applying to bring over families within about a month, whereas as recently as 2019, they were waiting 1 or 2 years or more. Cooper said she would suspend the system while the government looked to toughen the rules.
The story of resurgent Ethiopia and burgeoning Africa is here, only on the Pulse of Africa channel. All the time, Pulse of Africa, the face of Ethiopia, the voice of Africa.
Now to business news. Namibia faces tighter US dollar liquidity and higher settlement costs as the recently imposed 30% US tariffs on South African exports weaken the very financial challenge it relies on for cross-border trade payments, according to an analysis by Namibian research and investment firm Simony Storm Securities. According to an SSS report released Monday, although Namibia's direct exposure to U.S. markets is relatively small, its reliance on South Africa's financial system magnifies the impact of any fluctuations in those markets. Most Namibian banks do not hold direct correspondent accounts in New York and instead rely on South African banks for U.S. dollar clearing, the report said. It noted that the decline in South Africa's sales to the United States due to the new tariffs would lower the amount of dollars coming into its banks, which would hurt systems Namibia depends on and lead to slower payments, higher costs for transactions, and less money available for cross-border trade. Finally, Mauritanian economist Sidi Oulta was sworn in as president of the African Development Bank at the institution's headquarters in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire on Monday. The ceremony was attended by Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara, Mauritanian President Mohamed Ould Cheikh Ghazouani, and members of the AFDB Group Board of Governors. Oulta delivered the oath of office with solemnity. Oulta was elected the 9th president of the bank on May 29, securing more than 76% of the vote, the highest first-term margin in the bank's history. Elected for a 5-year term, the new AFDB president outlined 4 strategic pillars to unlock Africa's financial resources, to reform and strengthen the continent's fiscal sovereignty, to turn demography into dividend, and to build resilient infrastructure. Before we close, here's a quick look at the latest global commodities prices updates. Next, let's take a look at the current weather forecast. That's all from Pulse of Africa today. Thank you for being with us.
This is Pulse of Africa, the face of Ethiopia, the voice of Africa.